cans are in high demand and high value, which is really interesting. So of all the commodities that you could recycle, aluminum is a number one. It is infinitely recyclable. An aluminum can become another aluminum can and another can and another can with no loss of the quality of the product. That's a very unusual thing in the recycling world. Most materials degrade the more frequently they are recycled. Paper is a good example. High quality white paper, the more it becomes recycled, the shorter the paper fibers become and the less valuable it is because it doesn't bond as well to itself. So recycle those aluminum cans. Make sure everybody that you know does as well, because there is a shortage of cans, which is interesting. Steel cans still just kind of plug along. That's our tin cans, the stuff that we get our soup in. But paper and cardboard have really been tough to recycle because a lot of the shipping has been down. A lot of the product development in other countries is down. So it's kind of an interesting world that we're in. The MRFs are still struggling with the value of the commodities and the prices of the materials. Most MRFs are raising their tip fees to $100 and higher. And that is true in this area. And so I think a lot of people don't understand that the commitment to recycling has to be really embedded in a community, because in Boise, the amount of money that it would cost us to put something into the landfill is far less than sending it to a recycling center. And the recycling center has to offset the cost of recycling those materials, at the center, sorting them out, baling them, marketing them, shipping them, with the value that they get back for those commodities. And we've really been in a funk on the pricing for about 5 years now. And it was starting to show a little bit of improvement about the time COVID hit. So that has been a really difficult situation. So just kind of give you that big picture. The other issue that we are dealing with here in Boise, and this is a very significant one that I really need everybody to share with your friends, families, neighbors, everyone. We've seen an uptick in illegal, improper disposal of batteries. And it's really baffled all of us. And the problem is batteries, especially lithium and NiCad batteries, start fires in the recycling trucks and on the recycling floors and in the recycling equipment. And Western Recycling has already had more than 5 fires at their recycling facilities here in Idaho in the last 6 months. All it would take is one significant fire and we would lose our recycling facility. And they serve all of southern Idaho, clear over to Idaho Falls and Pocatello. If they were gone, we'd have to ship materials out of state to be sorted. So we're very baffled by why people think that it's okay to recycle batteries. Some of them that we've seen are batteries like enclosed in things, electric toothbrushes. People won't take the batteries out when they recycle the toothbrush. TV changers. Those have the batteries in them. People will throw those in the recycling, but they don't take the batteries out. And the minute they hit that truck and they get compacted, that sparks those batteries and they catch on fire. Or they'll land on the floor of the recycling center and they'll catch on fire. So it's become a really significant issue and a scary issue. We don't want our facilities to go up in flames, and we don't want anyone injured. We've already lost a $100,000 piece of equipment because a fire started in the recycling materials in the container. So what's really cool though is people just don't think about it, but it is a serious concern. And the cool thing about Ada County is we have access to proper disposal for household batteries at any time at no charge through the Household Hazardous Waste Program. So if you're on social media, Hefty Energy Bag Program is actually running advertisements as well as the City of Boise's Facebook post and Instagram and their newsletter talking about how to properly dispose of lithium and NiCad batteries in particular, because those are the ones that create the biggest problems. So I will stop there before we start any other subjects, and looks like maybe we have any questions.
Yes, Catherine, we do. We've got one question here, and it's asking, is there a business that pays for aluminum cans? And then a follow-up is, and can and should we recycle aluminum foil?
Good question. So first, there used to be, recycling center in Garden City that would pay you for your aluminum cans. I'm not aware of anybody that's doing that any longer. Part of it is because of the cost of sorting and managing the materials is more than the value of the commodities that they're getting back. Second part, aluminum foil. If you have a large piece of aluminum foil that you can kind of put into a ball, not flat, but a ball, and it's not grossly dirty, that can be recycled. But if it's covered in pizza sauce, you probably better throw it out. I had a piece of aluminum that I had put down to roast some potatoes the other day. It was very clean. And so I was able to just pull that out and wad it up into a nice ball so that it has some integrity when it goes to the recycling center and it doesn't look like a piece of paper because we don't want the aluminum in the paper. So yeah, those are both good questions.
Well, this is a statement here, and it says, I got to get it back here again. Okay, it says here, I saw a demonstration at BSU of a machine that could melt and recycle plastic locally. Do you have any response to that?
Yeah. Russ Stoddard is working with Boise State. He has a company called Plastic Works, and they are working on a prototype that can make plastic like floor tiles or non-structural plastic products. And so Russ and I have been trying to get together again. We haven't chatted in quite a few months now, and it is on hiatus right now with COVID. They have not run their it's a prototype startup plant. And hopefully that'll go somewhere, but I'm going to tell you in a little bit about another project that takes that concept and blows it even bigger. So hopefully that'll excite people.
And here's another question, and it goes back to when you were talking about batteries. Does it include all batteries?
So good question. Alkaline batteries, if they are spent, discharged, then they can go into the trash. They are the only battery that can go into trash. All other batteries, NiCad, lithium, and there's some really nickel metal hydride, NiMH batteries. All of those batteries are considered hazardous waste and should go to the hazardous waste collection sites.
Okay, here's another question. It says, I took a huge amount of aluminum cans to the recycle at Glenwood and Chinden. I got $1.
Sounds about right. And that's a private company, the one on Glenwood and Chinden, and I don't know much about what they take anymore. I'll have to do a little research on them.
Okay, another question here. How important is it to clean out the items that are being recycled?
You know, it's important to get clean and dry, but don't waste water. So we don't want anybody to waste water, but if you can get it clean and dry, that's the best. Food residue in most processes doesn't cause a problem, but something that's, heavily contaminated with food, by the time it gets into the truck and onto the recycling floor, it attracts flies and varmints and it smells horrible and it's just not pleasant to deal with. So we don't want you to waste water, but clean and dry as best you can. The one I actually threw it out the other day, a giant peanut butter jar. It's just virtually impossible to get them clean enough. You could wipe them out and get them as clean as you can. Water doesn't do much good on peanut butter, so you can't really rinse them. But yeah, clean and dry, but don't be, you don't need to put them in a dishwasher. I knew somebody that did that. They put all their cans in their dishwashers. We don't want you to waste water either, but just clean and dry as best as possible.
Okay. I've got a question here about the orange bags, and I think you're going to get into that here in a minute.
Yes, we're going to talk about orange bags in a minute.
Okay, but I wanted to ask another one here, statement, I guess. I usually take my cans to the recycle across Costco on coal. I give the credit to Ronald McDonald House. They gave me nothing for a bunch of steel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah. If you've got large pieces of steel or large pieces of metal, so for example, my gas barbecue. Some of the greats had finally just really gotten in bad shape and were starting to disintegrate. United Metals and Pacific Recycling are probably the better places to go for the heavier metal pieces. Brass, if you've got brass, you will make money. You will walk out with money. But steel, especially cheaper steel, it's still not got a lot of value. But if you take it to those facilities, United Metals or Pacific Recycling, that's really kind of their bread and butter, is to deal with all of those big, bulky metal items. And they're both real good. United Metals is located out near the airport off of Diamond Street, and Pacific Recycling over on Emerald.
Okay. Any sorting necessary for the batteries that go to the hazard waste?
No, and you can just put them in a clear Ziploc bag. Make sure that it's not near anything that could spark, and just put them. Nickel metal hydride, the NiCads, and the lithium batteries can all go into that clear bag, and they can go together. It's not a problem.
Okay. All right. This is pretty interesting here. Is there a newsletter or a messaging about recycling that we could share with others in our congregation and the community?
Not specifically. The City of Boise's website, curveatboise.org, is fantastic as a source of information. And if you go to that website, they've got all of the categories of hazardous waste and medical waste, what to do with your prescriptions or over-the-counter medications and how to dispose of them. So it's a pretty comprehensive website. So I would use that as you could pull a lot of information off that website, and you could put it into a newsletter if you wanted. That'd be a great way to do it. But it is a great source of information. They do a good job of keeping up that website.
Okay, I've got another question here. I think it's a question. Will you take large plastic Adams peanut butter jugs from Costco?
Yes, we will. And those are the kind I get.
Okay.
Yep. So, wipe them out, clean them out as best you can. Most of the peanut butter jugs are a 2, I believe. But yeah, 1s and 2s with a threaded neck can go into the recycling cart loose.
All right. Well, carry on there, Catherine.
All right. So let's talk next about the Hefty Energy Bag Program. And so we'll dispel some myths, first of all. We don't have a huge stockpile of bags in Boise. There should be about 1 to 1.5 loads at Western, and we're sending out about 2 loads a week to a variety of locations. The materials have been used in cement production, Renewology in Salt Lake. We're also testing the materials out in a variety of locations. Part of the goal of the program is to develop the markets for these materials, for these hard to recycle plastics. So a lot of the materials are going to tests to see how they work in different types of processes, everything from pyrolysis to mechanical recycling into new products. So there is no backlog. There is no materials are going to the landfill. We are managing all of the materials that are collected in the Boise area. This is still one of the top programs in the nation. People here are doing a really great job on the program. And if we can get the batteries out of the bags, that will make it an even better program. So that's one big thing, is the materials are being used. They are not sitting, they're not stockpiled anywhere, they are being used. The pyrolysis system that Renewology has in Salt Lake is up and running, and they are processing our materials. They're slowly ramping up production as they got their new equipment in this summer, just testing it and making sure that everything is operating optimally. Let's see, what do I want to talk about next? So one of the things that Reynolds has done in the last year is conducted a life cycle analysis, LCA. And they hired an independent commercial expert to conduct the life cycle analysis. And that evaluates the program from the generation of the energy bag all the way through the distribution, the use of the bag, the transfer to the recycling center, and then to the ultimate markets. They evaluated 4 different types of processes for the bags in that life cycle analysis. And that included chemical recycling, like pyrolysis, energy production, like cement manufacturing, and then direct recycling. And they compared that to what if you just kept the materials in that community and landfill them. And that document was completed, it was peer reviewed by 3 other independent consultants worldwide, just to make sure that the data and the information and the conclusions were defensible and accurate. That document was publicly posted and released on October 30th. Looking at my calendar here, the last Friday of October. If you want to review that life cycle analysis, there is a short version that's like 4 pages long, and then there's the full version. If you Google Hefty Energy Bag and pull up that website, you will see that it is, pull it up here. I'm going to pull it up right there. At the very bottom of the page, if you scroll down, besides telling you all about the Hefty Energy Bag program and how to participate, at the bottom of the page is learn about our environmental impact, our 2020 life cycle assessment. And there's the fact sheet like I talked about and the full report. So that is available, and we want you all to take a look at it and see, you know, how you feel about it, what you think, what questions you might have about the report. You lost me there for a minute. Sorry, I was pulling up that webpage so that I could make sure you could see it. It's pretty fantastic. They looked at it as a process. So the good thing about the way they've established this is it's evaluating the processes, not necessarily the facility. So it is related to a process, cement kilns, pyrolysis, landfill, not a specific facility or a specific location. And it determines through that what's the best way to manage these materials. And they found that, in fact, cement kilns as an alternative to coal is a very good way of managing the materials for energy recovery. Pyrolysis and landfilling the materials are pretty darn close. Part of that is because the pyrolysis process is such a new process here in the United States in particular. It is used in Europe. And so there's not a lot of data about the process, both the energy usage and the output of energy from the process. So as we go forward with these different opportunities, we can use the template of the LCA to evaluate additional types of uses for the energy bags. And we can go back and with better data, refining that LCA to have a better idea of what's the best solution for using the energy bags going forward. Dow and Reynolds both have a pretty significant goal of having all the plastics that they use eventually be recovered and recycled in some manner. That's a pretty aggressive goal. And so they're putting a lot of emphasis and interest into both building the program, the Hefty Energy Bag program, but also on the other hand, making sure we have the markets for the materials. So I'll stop there. And if you need me to, I can send you the link to that LCA.
Catherine?
Yeah.
I didn't know you wanted to screen share, so I've allowed you to screen share now. If you want to bring that up on your screen share.
Okay, let me do that.
And yeah.
Let's see here. That's not the one I want to screen share yet. Share screen. Okay, can you see it?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, there's, if you go down the page, there's the energy bag program, how to use it, what kinds of materials go into it. And right there at the bottom is learn about our environmental impact. And you can download and review the fact sheet and the full report. So, and you can see the little, it goes from the materials themselves through the manufacturing, distribution, use and collection, and then the end of life processes. So it's been a robust, very robust evaluation, very independent of of Reynolds and Dow. They hired an expert and then 3 independent reviewers to just ensure that the information is accurate and thorough. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Any questions about that part of it all?
Let's see here. I got to get back to. Few options.
You're
Okay.
really lucky my cat didn't just come up and stand on my screen. She usually does, but she decided to
Okay.
sit next to me today.
Let's see. You want to read?
Here's a question about the cement plant, Catherine.
Yes.
And let's see, I just scrolled right past it.
Ready.
With regard to the cement plant, what happens to the burnt particles released into the air? Are they contained in any way? And if not, isn't it better to landfill those plastics? At least it's not widely dispersed in the air.
Right, and that was part of the evaluation. All of the cement kilns that were evaluated in the process, in this LCA process, are state-of-the-art and have complete recovery of emissions and have very extensive reporting requirements for their emissions. They are using they call it refuse-derived fuels, RDF. And their goal is to have a 40% use of refuse-derived fuels. And what's interesting about a cement kiln is most of the fuel that they are using is either coal and or coal and tires, shredded tires. So as you can imagine, the environmental impact of the plastics is actually far less than the environmental impact of coal and tires. And that's why they found that in the life cycle analysis, it is better to use these materials to offset the use of coal and tires than coal and tires, which are being used traditionally. So all of the facilities have to meet very strict standards. And we will continue to evaluate the facilities that are used for this program to ensure that they are meeting those standards. But just keep in mind, if they weren't using these materials, they would be using coal and shredded tires. All of the materials are incorporated into the cement, by the way. There is no waste that goes to a landfill at all. They shred the plastics and they are incorporated right into the materials that make cement in a big, huge kiln. And that kiln gets up to like 1200 degrees in order to make the cement. It's a fascinating process. I had no idea till I visited a cement kiln. I had no idea how it worked. So there is no waste out of the process. It all is incorporated into the cement. And so the only other issues would be air emissions, and those are captured and monitored, and they are reported to all of the state and federal authorities. So they're heavily permitted.
Here's a question. Is it possible to tour the Renewology plant in Salt Lake City?
Not that I am aware of. When I toured the facility, I had to sign a non-disclosure agreement. They really aren't set up for tours. I think in the future that may be possible, but at this time it's really not. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I think you may have just answered this one, but the question is, are any toxic gases released with pyrolysis?
They're all contained within the process if there are any gases, and they all become part of the cement. And like I said, it's all of those air emissions reports are available on a state and federal level, wherever those facilities are located. And so that was all evaluated as part of the LCA.
Great, thank you. Here's a question. Is there any chance we will ever get the recycling machines like they have in Oregon and California? They have some that for aluminum and certain plastic in Oregon, the machines pay you right away.
Oh, yeah. It's part of Oregon's bottle bill. And so it's a pretty comprehensive program. Idaho has never been interested in implementing a bottle collection program. And I kind of doubt that it would ever happen here.
Okay. We just else here.
Oh, yeah, it's right here.
Just a second.
We're fighting over the.
We're fighting over the.
We're fighting over the control.
Yeah.
I yield.
Here's a question. The long report talks about how much global warming and ozone depletion, smog, acidification, eutrophication,
yeah.
and fossil fuel depletion. It gives an exact amounts for cement kiln fuel, unique pyrolysis, and landfill. Check out the long report. That's from Jamie. So is the long report available on this website?
That's the download the full report.
Oh, gotcha. All right,
So
thank you.
it would be this one right here.
Good to know.
Yeah.
So, so here's one. So this is from Jeanette and Tom saying, for chat lovers, Control A and Control C on the Windows selects all and copies the chat to your clipboard. You can paste it in a document in your machine. Zoom doesn't hint that you can copy selected text. So this was a question earlier, and worth noting that Control A and Control C allow you to extract stuff from the chat, it sounds like.
Nice.
So here's another question, just a little edification for everyone. Does the city have a contract with Renewology, the city of Boise?
No. The materials, once they are collected in the recycling trucks, so I'm going to get real complicated here, so bear with me. The contract that the city has with Republic Services, Republic owns the materials, trash and recycling, and as soon as they go into their trucks. So you as a consumer own them until they go into the trucks. And at that time, you've released them to Republic Services. The city's agreement with Republic is responsible for providing the facility that sorts the materials for recycling. They're also responsible, kind of in partnership with where the materials are landfilled for the trash. The city has the ability to approve and not unreasonably withhold approval for the MRF and how the materials are managed. But the city has no contract with Western Recycling, and it does not have any contract with anyone that would take those materials. Once Western accepts those materials on the floor of the recycling center here in Boise, the ownership of those materials transfer from Republic Services to Western. And it's Western that is then responsible for sorting the materials and marketing them. And whether they make money or lose money on the materials, the city sets the standards as far as what materials are accepted in the program, but they have no direct relationship with Western, and they do not have a direct relationship with anyone who recycles the materials.
Thank you. That is kind of complicated.
Yes, it is. 25 years of running that contract, and I could still recite most of the sections.
Oh my gosh. Well, Catherine, here's another one. The question is, I'm still confused about what can be included in the orange bags. We're going to be talking about orange bags in a few minutes because I think that's where we are at this point.
If you'll look right above you here on download the guide, there's a checklist there of what can and can't go in the orange bags. So that helps a lot. And when you think about the thousands of pieces of material, of packaging, of products that you get in your home, it's almost impossible to complete a comprehensive guide. I mean, there's thousands of things, but everybody keeps trying to add to make sure that, you'll come up with something. I came up with one the other day, Costco's avocados, or the little cutie oranges. Those are all plastic bags. Those could actually go in the energy bag program. Who knew?
I guessed right.
Yeah, that's it. Last week you got
I'm
right.
feeling like I just triumphed. I looked at it for a long time and guessed.
Yep, it's all plastic. I mean, the mesh is plastic, the labels are plastic. So, you know, and the other thing I would say is if in doubt, leave it out.
Yeah. Okay.
Some of the biggest problems and the reason why recycling costs so much anymore is sorting out contamination. Portland, the city of Portland termed it wishful recycling. I wish it would be recycled, therefore I'm going to put it in there and maybe it will be. That's really, really costly. At over $100 a ton versus 28, I think it is now at the landfill. That's a huge cost to the community. Excuse me. And that adds to our rates. They have to recover those rates in our fees and our trash fees. So wishful recycling is not the way to go. If in doubt, throw it out. If it's not on the list, err on the side of throw it in the trash.
Okay, it looks like I've got 2 more right now. Oops,
Okay.
maybe 3. Most orange bag plastics, for instance, PP and LDPE, are essentially higher density wax. So H2O and CO2 are the primary waste products. That's a comment, I guess, not a question.
Well, LDPE has a lot of value in the recycling system. Polypropylene as well. PET, PET, the #1 plastics, and the HDPE, the high density polyethylene, those are your milk jugs and your pop bottles. Those have high value. And that's why we want those loose in the carts, because those bottles really have value. They get made into your vests, they get made into carpet, they get made into a lot of materials. And so there's a lot of value in those. It's the lower value materials that have the most impact in the environment and the landfill. They take up a lot of space in the landfill. Yogurt tubs, for example. I mean, we eat yogurt every day. And even when I buy the big containers, I still got a big container. So the Hefty Energy Bag program is interesting in that it can take and recover those kinds of materials that traditionally have not had good markets for them and are very difficult to sort and recycle. And the goal is to be able to do this very efficiently and cost effective. It's got to be cost effective.
Mm-hmm. I find, somebody says here, I find recycling bags and styrofoam to be very complex. I've recently discovered Slacker silicone bags instead of Ziploc.
Yeah. I mean, there's a, you know, the Hefty Energy Bag program, Dow, everybody involved in these projects, the first thing that we would all tell you is reduce, reuse, reduce, reuse. We don't want to generate excess plastics. None of us do. And so reducing the use of single-use plastics or plastics that have no life to them, no legs to them. We want you to do that. But we want to be able to then recover the plastics that do have value and that are necessary. It's been interesting watching the industry during the last 6-8 months because disposables have become so common. And because of COVID and the concerns about spreading the virus, you know, we've got a whole lot of extra stuff that's being disposed. The Energy Bag program can take some of those materials, and that's a good thing. Can we get folks back to reusing things and reducing waste again? I hope so. I mean, we have to. Our landfills are going to fill up pretty fast with stuff that for most communities can't be recycled. So, yeah, I mean, anytime I find it, I like, I have glass straws and I have a straw cleaner. I love my glass straws. They're beautiful. They're nice to use. There's no reason, and I go to, I have this thing, not since COVID, but when I used to go to a restaurant and they'd hand you a glass of water with a straw. And I'd say, I don't need a straw. And they'd look at you like, well, why not? And I said, well, you do wash your glasses, don't you? I'm safe using your glasses, aren't I? Now with COVID, I don't know if I would feel safe, but you know, we just have gotten in habits of being wasteful without even realizing it. And so, it is really important. Reduce, reuse first, and then we want to recycle and recover those materials that can't be reduced and reused. So good. I want to get some of the beeswax coverings. I think those are just really cool. Yeah.
Quick, pardon me, a quick question. Is the orange bag itself recycled?
Yes, it is part of the process. And that's the good thing about it is the bag is, the bag itself is part of the message that it can be recovered and recycled into a new product or energy.
Another couple quick questions. One is the orange mesh bags for tangerines. Can that be
Yes.
recycled?
Yes,
And then
as long as there's no paper. If
Okay.
if the labeling and everything is plastic, yeah, it could go in the orange bag.
Okay, and then the another one, I didn't catch whether the yogurt containers go into the orange bag.
Most of the yogurt containers are in number 5, and those can all go in the orange bag.
And speaking of yogurt, here's a suggestion. Several people are making their own yogurt in their Instapot.
Yeah.
Very easy, can be made non-dairy, such as soy. So here's another question. Wouldn't we be better off just avoiding plastic? It takes so much energy to recycle, reuse it. It degrades with use. The value of recyclables is minimal, and plastic makes fossil fuels profitable, correct? I found a liner for my compost that is biodegradable. So yes, that's kind of the bigger question you were bringing up.
Yeah, I mean, I would ask the kind of a question in the reverse a little bit. If we didn't have plastics, what would we be putting things in? And a lot of people would then say, oh, well, glass. Glass is less recyclable and has a higher environmental impact than plastic. Petroleum production, the vast majority, it's like 90+% of the petroleum that we extract in society is used for fuel. It isn't used for plastics. And so if we really want to impact petroleum, we need to start driving less and using highly efficient cars, whether they're hybrid cars or full electric cars, or just being more efficient in our driving practices. So there are really good things about plastic. We can ship a commodity a longer distance and have more when it's shipped in plastic versus glass, even versus a steel can, a tin can. You can ship more commodity that way. Can we get manufacturers to do a better job of creating products that are easier to recycle? Absolutely. And there is actually a competition, an international competition every year to promote the recyclability of packaging materials in particular, and innovations in packaging to ensure that they are recyclable. One of the worst things to hit the market a few years ago, and it's kind of gone away, if you'll remember, Coca-Cola was going to create a bottle that was 3 layers of different kinds of plastics. That bottle would not have been recyclable at all at that time. So they thought it was a great idea, but the reality was there was no market, no way to manage that material. The PLA plastics, the polylactic acid plastics that are supposed to be biodegradable, those are the worst in our recycling process because they don't look different than regular plastics, but they can't be recycled like regular plastics. And they were a contaminant in the plastics recycling process. So there's just so much amazing stuff going on out there that it's exciting. It's exciting what's happening. I think one of the things, I talked to somebody recently, I think one of the things that the industries aren't doing well enough is telling the story of what they're trying to do to make their products circular. And part of it is, as consumers, we've got to stop being so incredibly skeptical of everything that we hear and read. Sometimes we have to give folks the benefit of the doubt that they're really trying to do something good and be supportive and be an advocate for that. it's too easy to always criticize. It's a whole lot harder to get knowledgeable and really tell these industries that we like this. We like what you're doing. We want you to do more. And I think that's, you know, coming from being in local government for all of my career to coming to work with industries, I'm seeing more and more of that innovation and that excitement about really creating a circular society where the waste that we produce becomes something new. And before we run out of time, I really want to show you something that we're working on that's along those lines.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna end this screen. And are you seeing this screen?
No change.
No change. Let's see. I'm going to stop that share and I'm going to share a new one. Got it?
Yep.
All right, good. So as part of that market development, Dow identified a company in California, in Los Angeles, California, called Bifusion. And they are taking that problem of too much plastic waste that is difficult and inefficient to recycle, and they are creating a green building material out of that waste. And that material is called the BiBlock. This photo does not give you an idea of the size. It's 22 pounds, and yes, it looks like a giant Lego block. And it is made using pressure and steam to compress all those varieties of plastics into a construction block that can offset the use of concrete blocks in building construction. And here's some ideas of what it can be used for. It is amazing. So on the right-hand side, the green roofed building was a structure built in Kauai, Hawaii at a park as a pilot project. The material, you saw it, it looks like a plastic block. You'll see it on the left there in the wall. It can be used as a retaining wall. It is constructed very similar to concrete construction. You lay down a concrete sill, you have rebar in it, and you just stack the blocks and they lock together. The interesting thing about it is, unlike concrete blocks, you don't have to mortar between them. So the construction technique is much faster. It saves 54% of normal construction costs, and it builds 75% faster than a concrete block build. And it is, I'm going to go on to one more here. It has UL Green Guard standards, meets the UL Green Guard standards. It contributes to LEED credit. So if you know about LEED, Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, and it's California compliant for emissions. There are no emissions off of the equipment. And that's what the system looks like. It's all contained in a cargo box. You generate the steam and shred the materials, feed them into the blocks, and it compresses them into the cubes, the rectangular cubes. They can do, we're looking at doing 10 tons. So this says block volume, 1,600 blocks a month. We're looking at doing 30 tons a month here in Boise, which is about how much we're collecting in the Energy Bag program. So that would make 30 tons a month, would make about a 6-foot high wall, 1 block deep, 400 feet long for 1 month.
And Carolyn, you say this is going to be happening in Boise as well?
We are, I'm going to show you this one. We are working on a pilot project in Boise to bring this system up to Boise next spring and have it be operational by June. We're looking for additional sponsors, supporters for the project. Dow and Reynolds have committed funding, and we need additional funding. We need a location to locate the equipment, and we need partners to help run it. But it is so exciting. We could take the majority of the plastics that we're recovering here in the energy bag program and create blocks that could be used for all the new construction projects right here in Boise. Show you one more example of some of the things that they can build.
Oh,
And I have blocks at my house. So if anybody wants to see a block, I have them. So I'm really excited about it because this is what we want. We want to be able to take these plastics and create a product right here in our community. Ultimately, it'll employ people, it'll pay taxes, we'll create a valuable commodity out of a waste plastic that has traditionally gone to the landfill, and we keep it right here. So I get really excited about it. They say I'm just giddy, but I am. I'm really excited about this. So I wanted to kind of give you guys a little bit of we've been starting to get it out there in the community. We've been talking to engineers and architects and the city parks department, the city public works department, trying to just spread the word that we want to do this, but we're going to need some support from some folks to make it happen.
Oh, that's very interesting. So questions about that particular part of your talk, the buy block.
Yeah, you picked up some attention here, I can tell you.
Yeah,
it's so
trying
cool.
to go back to the beginning of this little thread. So I think the first question is, could we build houses with bifusion?
Yes.
Okay.
So you saw the one picture of the, like they've already got the plans designed for like additional dwelling units, ADUs, or backyard storage sheds or backyard offices. So yes, could it be used for multi-story structures? Yes, it will take some engineering work to make that happen, but single-story structures are not a problem at all. It is a complete direct replacement for concrete blocks. And you would finish it very similar to a concrete block with, you know, insulation and siding, whether stucco or traditional siding. And what's really cool is you can drill and nail right into it.
Yeah.
Okay, here's will the building industry is
Boise finding buyers in the building industry?
So we've got a lot of folks who are very interested in it. Some of the uses would be like retaining walls. One person I talked to, an engineer I talked to, got really excited about using it as an amphitheater. You know, where you're building an amphitheater on a hillside. This stuff would be perfect for that. And it would be a great way to showcase it. I don't particularly want just a retaining wall. To me, that people don't react and interact with the retaining wall. But if we had benches, if we had bus stops, can you imagine bus stops made out of this? Be perfect applications. Parks Department, when I talked to City Parks Department, they thought it'd be really cool for shelters in parks, picnic shelters. They're also looking at a couple like shelters in some of the greenbelt locations where people could stop and rest and have a little bit of a shelter. So yeah, it's got a multitude of uses. It meets the same building standards as general wood construction, wood frame construction for fire code and energy code.
We've got a wordsmith among us. Here, Jamie says, I want a buy block shed.
There we go.
Shed.
That's cute.
That's only if I can say it correctly. Good work,
Yes,
Jamie.
buy block she shed.
Okay, so let's see. Here's are they flammable? And if it burns, is it toxic?
So they tend to melt rather than burn because they are really dense. I mean, they are compressed and dense. They can be treated with a anti-flame coating as well. So like you might treat a wood structure, you know, there's sealants and paints that are anti-flame. So, but they don't typically burn. They're going to melt before they burn.
And
What temperature would it have to be at to melt?
Oh, high. Yeah.
High?
something is going to have to be flammable near it, wouldn't it?
Because they're compressed.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Well, so looks like we might have taken care of all of the questions about the buy block. That was fascinating. Just to go back a little bit about the orange bag.
Sure.
Couple of questions were, where can we as consumers buy the roll of orange bags?
Okay.
What do you say about that?
Okay, good question. Albertsons, Target, Boise Co-op all carry the bags. And they carry the 13-gallon 26 bag rolls. Fred Meyer is carrying them now, but they are charging significantly more. So, and the Fred Meyer near me on Federal Way, I haven't found them on the shelf yet. So if they are carrying them, they're carrying like maybe 2 bags. So, but they are charging quite a bit more than Albertsons and Co-op and Target. You can also buy bags at Home Depot, but I'm going to give you a big but. They are 8-gallon bags and they are a 20 pack rather than 1326. So they are a little less, but they also hold a lot less. So I would recommend that unless you're in a serious bind and that's the only place you could find them, I would find the 13-gallon bags.
So Catherine, just to be clear, could you repeat the locations? Because I think this is kind of a recurring question we've got.
Yep. All of the Albertsons, the Targets, and both Boise Co-op sites.
Great, thank you.
You have to actually go.
And I have to say Fred Meyer as well, but buyer beware, they are more expensive.
Yeah, one of the questions here is actually more of a statement, came from one of our attendees here, and that was, well, she called Albertsons to include it in her pickup or her delivery from Albertsons, and they didn't have it to put on her delivery cart. I don't know if they are not putting it on delivery carts, or you have to actually go into the store to get it, or
yeah, wait, you know, and I need to share that. I have heard that too. What I have heard is if you go online to place your order with Albertsons, you have to like search for like energy bag or orange bag or something like that, because if you call up and ask for it, or if you search for it a different way, you won't find it. I don't know what's going on, because all of the Albertson stores are stocked. So it may be just a lack of awareness by the folks that are picking the materials. It's just kind of a funky situation, but I have heard that even if you go online with Albertsons and try and find it online, it's kind of hard to find, but they do have them.
Oh, that's good. All right, so we've made a note of where we can buy them. So here's a couple of statements. Question about how widespread is this new buy block technique? Is it just Boise?
So they are located in Los Angeles, and they have constructed facilities in Hawaii as a demo. We would be their first continental United States demo site, which is really exciting. And yeah, and they picked Boise because of our entrepreneurial spirit. And that was before Dow and Reynolds even approached them about potentially coming here. The other good reason to come to Boise is the amount of construction that's going on here. I mean, this is a great offset to traditional products. And we have a lot of companies here that really want to use LEED certified materials and green building materials. So it was a good matchup when Dow found out about them and said, wow, this is great. In Los Angeles, they're also recovering. If you go to Bifusion, their website, you'll also see information about their efforts to recover ocean plastics and turn them into the buy blocks. And we had almost weekly conference calls with them. And it was interesting. They said, if you think the energy bags smell, you ought to smell the ocean plastics, because those really get, you know, rank. So they love the Bifusion, the energy bags for the Bifusion project. They're also looking at projects in Detroit potentially, and Maui and Kauai are both interested, as well as having a facility there. So we want to beat them. We want to be the first pilot project in the continental US.
Yeah, got a shout out for Bifusion here. Bifusion's goal is to recycle 100 million tons of plastic by 2030. Their website is great.
Yes, it is. And they are fantastic people to work with. It's been a really exciting opportunity. And Dow has given me all the time I need to help them get here in Boise and be successful here. So it's been pretty exciting.
Well, folks, we're just about at the end of Catherine's presentation. If you have any other questions, would you, can we unmute everybody?
Maybe.
That sometimes is easier said than done. I was just going to say at the end here, Catherine, how grateful we are for your incredible, I mean, a solid hour of information, and we're deeply grateful for that. So
yeah, I figured I'd only talk for like 20 minutes. So here we go. As usual, I could talk a lot about this stuff.
Well, you've been very gracious in answering the question. So if you folks, if you have any last, you can wave your hand or something. We'll call on you.
Well, you can unmute yourself.
Unmute yourself.
Yeah.
You want to talk?
Sure.
Go ahead, whoever that was.
Okay.
Kathy.
Oh, yeah, I want to know if that bird netting, the stuff that's black, and is that
Yes.
recyclable?
It is, but it would make a real mess in the shredding process. So I'd probably tend to put it in the trash.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else? Other folks? Questions for Catherine?
Gail.
Do we have any data on the energy used to create the buy blocks?
That will be part of the pilot project, is to really vet that whole system and collect data. And that's the great part about a pilot project, is we get a chance to really test everything out. It's a pretty simple process. It uses electricity to heat the water, or natural gas. We're going to go with electricity because our goal here with Boise's electric system, where Idaho Power has a high percentage of renewable resources for electricity generation, that's a positive. We're also looking at potentially finding someone to support solar installation for the boiler. So it's just steam. It takes pressure to compress the blocks. And there's very little wastewater out of the process. And what little wastewater comes out is recycled and cleaned and put back into the boiler. So it's a pretty clean process overall. But that'll be part of the pilot project, is really to vet all of those systems and the inputs and outputs.
Any last question?
Jamie.
Thank you. Gosh, that was amazing. One thing I wanted to ask Catherine was, I do have to say, when you say trying to get the word out, my girls now are in junior high and high school, but Idaho Power used to do monthly meetings in their classes, and it got me to change everything.
Oh, yeah.
And so I don't know if that's something that you guys could do, is get into, they go to Boise schools, but I would get, and here's the thing that's great about kids, right? Oh my gosh, Mom, you have to do this. You have to.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you know, what will be really cool about the buy block process, if we can get them here with this pilot project, the whole goal is to get everybody in the community there to watch it, to see how it works, to watch the materials that they put in that orange bag be shredded and made into a block. And I think that's a really powerful message, that we can really close the loop ourselves right here locally.
It's amazing. Thank you. But I'd say definitely go after the little kids, because they get their parents to do stuff.
True.
Anne-Marie?
Yes, I was wondering, my husband and I periodically bring bottles, our empty bottles, over to a bin over at Albertsons. Where does that glass go?
Oh,
And
good.
also the plastic that's in the wine boxes, is that, can that go into the orange bag?
So yes, glass first. All of the glass that's collected in Boise, not Meridian has a little bit of a glass collection program, but Boise and Eagle have the same program. It goes to a company located right off of Federal Way here in Boise called Environmental Abrasives, and they make industrial abrasives out of the glass.
Oh.
And that is really a cool product in that it offsets the use of silica sand in abrasive applications. And silica sand creates silicosis issues in the workers. So, you know, lung very serious lung issues. And so the glass can offset the use of silica sand for blasting operations. And so there's a real market for it. We just need to build the market a little bit more in this area. But yeah, it's all being used, and we are unique. There are very few communities in this country that actually can recover glass and do something with it.
Awesome.
Now on the wine boxes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, it can be recycled in the orange bag program. Get it as empty as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, make sure that
That's
there's
not
no,
a problem.
No, not a problem. Yeah, no, me neither. Make sure there's no metal. You know, sometimes there'll
Yeah.
be little metal rings or something. Just no metal, and make
Okay.
sure it's empty.
Awesome. Thank you.
Do you have to, sorry, on that, the box wine thing, because I wonder too, do you have to separate that little spigot
Nope.
from the bag? Okay.
No, it's fine.
Awesome.
Well,
Great.
thank you, Catherine. Very informative presentation. Thank you so much. Thanks all for coming. We're glad that you can join us.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
You're a font of information, and we know where to go to get questions.
Thanks, Catherine.
Thank
All right.
you.
Spread the word on
Everybody
this one.
Stay well. Stay
Yeah.
well.
My next home is going to be buy blocks.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Do we have room on the church property?
Yeah, you can believe Lisa.
Ooh, think about that. If there's a church project that, you know, the community could see, there you go.
Yeah, that's
All
right.
right. Thanks again. Take
All right,
good care.
take care.
Bye, Catherine.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.